Podcast listeners, viewers, followers. This is an exciting one, but it has had our hands full. We are technologically challenged, but hopefully you can hear the ocean in the background. I am with an awesome friend that I dragged in to do a podcast episode with us, Mr. Avery Embry. But I'm going to talk about you in 1 second. Paul, you and I, welcome. Nice hat, first of all.
Love it.
I feel like we can't get away from each other. I come to Alabama and Gulf Shores, stone's throw from Florida, and looks like you're in sunny Florida.
I'm in Indian Shores on the Gulf, baby, right across the street from the beach.
A little bit of a swim. I'm going to try to get my third device working here, but this is an exciting episode because we had Jim Rowan, who was Ohio Association of School Business Officials executive director, on last month, and after Paul and I said, we really haven't had a business official on the podcast, and we really want to cater to all facility professionals in education. And I think that there's a big piece missing with understanding what a business official does, how they relate, and the importance of communication and teamwork between the facilities department and the business office. And so I could think of nobody greater than Avery. Avery Embry, I'm going to let you tell a little bit about yourself, but you're from Talladega Public Schools, and you've been there your whole career. So give us a little bit of insight.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I'm Avery Embry, as Josh said, and I'm employed with the Talladega County School District as the Chief School Financial Officer. And I've been with the school district now for 25 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
So 25 years, 1997, and we talked to Jim Rowan about becoming a business official. Did you go to school to say, I want to be a school business official?
I did not. I actually went to school to get a degree in accounting. I graduated from Jacksonville State University with both my BS in accounting and my MBA. And my goals was to be an internal auditor.
Yeah.
And but the interesting story about me, starting out in high school, I worked for the Board of Education.
Yeah.
I was a student worker, and I worked 2 summers, and then I worked my entire senior year there at the Board of Education. I never had any plans of coming back to serve as in any capacity, but I kept in contact with the folks there, and one of the ladies there, actually the superintendent secretary, used to do my resumes, cover letters for me when I graduated from college. And she called me one day on my job as an auditor for AmSouth Bank Corporation to let me know she put my name in the hat to be an accountant for the school district. And I said, well, hey, wait, my background is in education. She said, no, but you're just who they're looking for. And so the rest is history.
And Talladega it's a big school district. I mean, I understand you have a nice racetrack there.
We do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, the one of the best in the country, possibly the world.
I think it is. The one NASCAR event I got to go to in my life was actually Talladega 2001.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks after 9/11, so they didn't allow coolers. Up until then, you could bring your own beer.
Yes.
And a case of Bud Light Tall Boys was $96. That's what I remember the most from that event.
We're happy about the track being there because it generated a lot of tax revenues for our school district.
Yeah. So what's your budget?
Our budget is around normally 90 million.
Yeah.
Right now with the ESSER funds, it's running upward to 125 million.
Yeah. And then that's going to come back. There's lots of discussion around ESSER funds, trying to extend it. I understand there's going to be funds available until 2024, they're saying. That's now. Right. And that's got to be a heck of a Rubik's Cube to put together to put all of the pieces into place and to make sure that you're making the best decisions. So
it's constant collaboration between all departments, the instructional department, the facility department, the child nutrition department. Everybody has some play in all and getting some of the money. So we're constantly trying to figure out the best way to spend those funds for our students.
Yeah. So how are you using those ESSA funds, Avery? Everyone we talk to, we ask the same question. So many people are using them different ways. I mean, I don't need to know the nuts and bolts of it, but in a general statement, how are you using those funds?
So with this last pot, ESSER 3, ARP ESSER, we're doing a lot of HVAC work because you can spend the monies on capital projects. So our district has chosen to do HVAC work because we've got a lot of um, schools that are needing some improvement in that area. So that's a big thing. And then some of the things we've done instructional, we've hired some math coaches because the test scores in the area of math has been down so all over, and we've been hiring some coaches to come in to help with that. And our state is doing a big push for that initiative too.
That's great. I mean, as a facilities director, yeah, I like to hear that it's going to HVAC and stuff like that. Math coaches are good too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's you want to know something, Paul. You know, we talk about the facilities, but there's a lot of that stuff that's needed that we don't think about because we're talking about cleaning for health and not not appearance anymore, and making sure that we have all that HVAC equipment. That's the first person I've talked to that said math tutors was on the list.
Yeah, because one area of those funds is to help improve instruction as far as when students are at risk, both academic and behavioral wise. So, for course, the math is applying to the academic side of it.
I think the tricky part there is that we know that that's all needed, that the math coaches, and how do we move forward and keep those entities as the ESSER funds go away? We know they're going to go away at some point.
Yes.
And we want to make sure we keep those services that the kids need. I mean, in the end, it's all about the kids.
Exactly. And our state is working on that big push with also how to sustain that program after the ESSER funds are gone.
Yep.
They're working on putting some funds in place to support that.
That's great because there's so many communities that we hear that, you know, are only thinking about ESSER funds. You got to think past that goal line of ESSER.
The initial funds was to how to respond to COVID. And then it was try to get technology into the schools because of COVID and the kids not being able to come to school every day. So, and then they've added this other monies and it came with certain requirements. So that's been good.
Yeah.
How do you, sorry, we just had a bird, did you see that thing?
I did.
He's got a lot better poker face. I'm glad the camera wasn't on for me because this pterodactyl just flew by us.
And just for the record, for those that are watching on video here, I'm sure glad that the camera's on Avery and not on Josh.
Oh, I've been moving around in the background. I've been fidgeting. I've been throwing cables all over the place. You'll like this, Paul, from a facility standpoint. Yeah. This is the first hotel I've been in. So this is the Perdido Beach Resort in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, Alabama. And when you have the door open, there's a sensor and the thermostat won't kick in. The HVAC controls will not work if any of the doors or windows are open.
I need to get that here at my condo for when the rental people come in and they turn on the air conditioner and they open the doors wide open.
Imagine doing that in some schools in the country.
Yeah,
you know,
that wouldn't go over big.
The heat won't run if the windows are open in the winter. Yeah. Be awful lot of cold kids.
From a facility standpoint, it makes sense to me, but.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the cost of electricity. It's no joke. So
more efficient on that end. Huh?
Yeah. So how many kids are in Talladega?
We have approximately 7,000 students right now.
Yeah.
We've experienced a little decrease due to COVID and whatever, but right now we normally run anywhere from 7,000 to 7,500.
Yeah. So that's a budgeting issue in itself too, because I've talked to a lot of schools. I've talked to some schools that there's like 10% of their student population that they don't even know where they went. So, you know, in part of your formula is a per student expenditure, right?
Yep.
So
that's how we're funded from the state based on enrollment.
Yeah. So, you know, if you come up with, you know, hey, we had 7,500 this year and you come back and you're down 750, that's a huge differentiator.
Yeah. Our state, they know that was happening, and so the legislature put some funds in place to sort of support that. Like we got some stabilization money to help with student enrollment declining.
Yeah. I want to ask you, and I didn't prep you with any questions, so the stuff's all just coming out of my brain as it comes along, but you're used to that. So Paul is too. And gets
absolutely.
That time. But, you know, thinking about and you've had a facility director, the same facility director for some time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're kind of an anomaly in education today because everybody's moving spaces. So this might be a tough one to kind of give me the thought on the idea of this is, a new facility director coming into a school district. I think a lot of the new facility directors, especially the younger ones, they come in with, a degree, some experience, some hands-on experience, possibly something like what moved up through the ranks, Paul, right? Like
Yep.
a couple of folks that we got coming up that came up through the ranks, a couple that we've had already, like Scott. What would you give them for advice as far as how to work with the business office? A lot of times, I hear people saying, well, they're just going to say no. Like when I would sell something, they say, well, it's just going to get turned down. And there was like that friction hold, right? Like the feeling like the business office is just there to say no to everything you want. And I feel like you're someone that's not a no person, but a not now person. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on there. So, what advice would you give as far as how should they work? How should they, approach? Like any best ideas, best practices?
The one thing that was sticking in my mind as you were speaking was communications.
Yeah.
You've got to communicate to me what you're doing and what you're trying to do. And I've been fortunate to work with some good folks in facilities who we've been able to collaborate and communicate and trust one another and work on budgets and talk about how best to get this done.
Yeah.
And but if you're coming in and you like narrow-minded, just only focus on what you're trying to get accomplished, then it's not going to work.
Right.
It's going to take everybody, in my opinion, to put it together. So communication is top of the list. And then another thing is that you've got to be familiar with your budget. You got to be familiar with how all this works. And then understanding the bid laws here in the state will be a good clue how all this stuff works out in the State Department in construction management. And then outside of collaborating with the business office and the business folks, you got to be able to collaborate with the architect if you're dealing with a construction manager, whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
But still, with all those different elements, you still got communication.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not communicating and here something pops up and is astronomical amount for a cost, but you haven't shared with me what you're trying to do, it's going to be a holdup,
right?
Until we communicate and figure out what's the best way and the solution. So, and
I'm here to do a lot of the fact finding for you. So come with the solutions, not come with the problems. Come with the homework.
Yeah.
If it has to go to bid, understand what that is,
right?
To make your life a little bit easier and build that trust.
Yeah, because see, all this got to pass muster. For example, with the auditors, if we're trying to pay for something and it hadn't met, we didn't do a bid, then we're gonna be in violation. Then it's gonna be a citation. Then it's bad publicity for the school district because we got audit funding. So
yeah.
So I think Josh, you touched. There was one word there that I pulled out of that, and that was trust. And I think, in my experience, with the business directors and as a facilities director, we have to build a trust with each other. And I know one of the stories that I tell all the time is back when I was in Watertown, I would get to work at 5:30 in the morning because I felt that once it got to 8 o'clock, the day just went down the tubes. But one morning I got there, and at 6:30 when my guy showed up, I got a call from one of the buildings that the hot water heater, he said, I went in the boiler room, water everywhere. He said, so, the hot water heater had just burst. It had, lived its useful life. And that was at 6:30. I cannot call, get a purchase order, get a bid, and go out for that. I called my plumber. I said, go to the supply house, get a hot water heater. Now, my business director would typically come in at 9 o'clock in the morning. That was the regular schedule. When she got into the office at 9 o'clock, the building was back in hot water.
Yes.
So I can't risk closing the school. The cafeteria has to run. It needs hot water.
Yes.
The code says we have to have, hot water running through the bathrooms. So she trusted me enough for me to make that call, and I was comfortable enough with that trust not to have to bother her in the morning for something that I knew was going to go. I mean, we had to do it. It was something we had to do. And by 9 o'clock, when she got to the office, I showed up at her office and said, "This is what happened." And
Right.
we had that relationship where I could tell her, "This is what I did," and school's in session. You know, school was in for an hour while the guys were just, making the final connections. And we skimmed by that. So it's a big
Yeah.
trust thing between facilities directors
Trust is huge. It is
and the
huge.
business directors. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened here today, Paul. I got down here for the pre-conference, which I guess you guys get credits for that,
Right.
and they are intense. I mean, this was a 4 hour, almost 4 hour,
3.5 hours,
almost 4 hour. I round up. I make it. Avery's the numbers guy. He's like 3 hours 27 minutes. I round up 4 hours. But it was all on building your capital budget, capital planning. Then what to do when the project hits, and working with the A&E firm. And one of the things that David Smith said, the executive director who oversees all the business officials in Alabama and is just an amazing human being, he stood in front of 250
Right.
business officials today, and he was talking about the importance of having the facility director at the table with these projects, with the A&E firms,
right.
with the construction folks, with the people that are doing the project, so that the ins and the outs and the question marks that happen, and so that something doesn't get built, like you talk about. Something doesn't get built, and then you inherit it, and there's just all these things that you either have the staff that can't maintain the equipment, or you have all these intricacies that just aren't made for day-to-day school use. And I thought that was really cool, because he made it a point of saying you need to have your team involved with these projects. For the folks that are going to be actively taking care of these buildings, they need to know what's going on with these projects.
A lot of time the business official was left out of that conversation.
Yep.
And so mainly we got some new folks that just started with different districts here, and he's mainly speaking to them like, you need to be at that table when they're discussing these projects.
Yep.
Because you're gonna be the one who knows the number. You're gonna be the one who knows the ins and outs, how to get things through.
You got to marry the project with the number, right?
Right.
You can't have this project with this number that you can't get to, and then you can't have this project that's not enough to get to the job that wants to get done.
So we sit at the table in my district with the superintendent, our facility person, and we have conversations. Sometimes it's multiple conversations until we get to the point to where we're ready to start the building process.
As I'm listening to this, and we talk about trust and we talk about communication, I think it's important for our listeners to know that don't know. You're not just dealing with the teachers and the facilities. You're dealing with, in most cases, it's silos, right? It's food service, it's transportation, it's IT, it's facilities, it's curriculum, it's special ed. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of buckets underneath you that all need a piece of the pie. How do you manage that? I mean, you got a full head of hair. Right?
I would say
that makes one of us.
Yeah.
Well, I think it takes being a good listener.
Yep.
And it takes being able to multitask, that's for sure, and being able to work on more than one thing. And then you got your team.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to delegate some of the things, but you kind of oversee, you kind of help me manage this. Like, we got a person in my office that works with federal programs. We got a person in my office that know their role to kind of work with capital projects. So to know what's going on there. So I can go to that person and say, hey, what are we doing here with the HVAC at Lincoln High School? And this person said, here's where we are. This is what we've done.
Yeah. And
then you can also know that we got support from other areas, from facilities, that he has an assistant that helps with the projects. And then child nutrition has someone that can help. So there's multiple people that are in place to make sure things go smoothly.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important. I marvel at the superintendent, you said, the business director, and the facilities person together. That it's so important. Josh knows that a good friend of ours, Ken Wirtz, and I, we went on a crusade in Massachusetts, telling our story, and we called it "Wish You Had Asked." There was so many building projects that were being done, and the facilities person wasn't involved. Where now, I mean, we have building committees in Massachusetts, and that's how And they're all most volunteers, all good people that want to do good things, but they don't have to live with the building after it's built,
Right.
and run it and keep it up and maintain it. And I tell the story that I worked in a very large community. It was 11,000 kids, 23 school districts, 23 schools, and 3 million square feet. And we built the most expensive high school in the state of Massachusetts 12 years ago. It was $200 million 12 years ago.
Wow.
It was 410,000 square feet. It had one slop sink. Slop sink. And it was like, no, we weren't included. The facilities department wasn't included in all those conversations. And the slop sink was in the set design. It was for the kids that were working with the theater. It wasn't even our slop sink. We had all these custodial closets with no water, no drain.
Wow.
And we were not consulted. So to hear that, you those three are joined, super, business, facilities, that's where it's got to be. There's got to be communication.
That's how they roll down here.
Yeah,
they get done.
I love it.
This is a non-facilities related question, but I don't know when we'll get the next person on here that's got the 25, 27. I'm not going to make an assumption here, but you're going to finish your career where you started, which is extremely rare.
Yes.
But that career that you've had Y2K, 9/11, bird flu, swine flu, Ebola, worst recession of all time, longest war with Afghanistan and Iraq, COVID, social unrest, everything that's gone on in your 25 years. How many times in your career did you say, it can't get any worse than this?
I can't even count, man. I can't count. But we managed to get through.
And I think that's the key here is, like, I think a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
And you've been in the same place. Like, a lot of people go, well, it's bad here, so I'm going to go here. But I got news for you. COVID's still over there, right?
Yeah.
It's still there.
It's in all over the world.
But I can remember. Really, we were freaking out at Y2K, right? The world was going to come to an end over zeros, O's and X's, zeros and ones.
Right.
But we got past it. We get past it, and so that resilience. What was it like for you to go through? I know it's gonna be hard for you to think about all those things, but thinking about all those things that I just ran off that you could probably put in your brain of those times and everything. What was how do you keep what is something, because you always smile. I've known Avery for 20 years, Paul. Never not seen him smile.
Yeah.
Never.
That's been said about me a lot.
Yeah.
The one thing I have to say is believing in the power above and always trying to keep a positive attitude. And in any situation, whether it's bad or good, if there's some good is going to come out of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I look at life and whatever I'm dealing with. And I know that I can't do it by myself. I know that it's going to take a team.
Yeah.
And I believe in my team.
Yeah.
And that's how I've gotten through. Surround myself with some good folks and working with some good people who are passionate about what they do as well as I am.
Yeah. I got to get to your school district.
Okay.
I got to, because I've talked about it many times. Paul, Paul is, I was a salesperson, as you know. Paul was a client of almost 20 years that I never made $1 worth of commission on because I got to the game late. I've been friends with Avery for almost 20 years. And this is how I know I got good people by my side, because Scott Carpenter, who you've known forever, and it was my boss for a long time. And, I'd come down here as the evangelist and have known you guys and part of Hasbro, but my selling was all up in New England.
Yeah.
And, it was a couple of years ago, and I'm talking to Scott, and I said, hey, what's Avery own? Right? What's Avery got? Because it just seemed like you were a client. Like, that's how I got introduced. Like, Avery's not a client of ours. I said, oh, okay, well, that makes all the sense in the world. And I'm going to go down and tell them that we've done a huge disservice as his friend, that we need to go and then I sadly departed and didn't get a chance to get there to see you, let alone sell you something.
Right.
But I got to get and check out your school district because that'd be something cool. You're up for a Talladega trip, Paul. I understand you're getting into NASCAR a little bit, so
Absolutely. I think as long as it's a race weekend, I'm there. Let's do it.
Yeah, we just had one in April.
Yeah, it's April and September, October.
April
right?
and October.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like there during a race. I mean,
Oh, it's insane.
It's insane.
Was it's like 200,000?
Yes,
200,000 people.
the crowd has definitely improved this year versus the past 2 years.
Yeah. As far as numbers or just
As far as the numbers, because of COVID, the numbers were down, but now they're back up to the norm.
so they literally make all their money in 2 weekends a year, basically. Wow.
so does
And they
that
have some
impact,
other things that they do, but
Yeah.
the two big things are the two big races.
Yeah.
does that impact your school department at all? Do people?
Yeah, we're
miss
happy
things?
about. I was just sharing. We're very happy about having a racetrack in our county because it generates a lot of tax revenue.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
$96 for a case of beer in 2001, Paul. What do you think?
I want to know how much of that 96 was going to the schools. That's
I'm sure they're getting their taste.
yeah.
Oh man.
Great.
Well, this is great, Paul. I don't know. You got anything else? I'm so mesmerized by this beautiful site. I hope you guys got to hear some of the waves and getting to spend some time with Avery. I got a couple days here. I'm going to talk about how what we learned about facilities thanks to COVID down here, and have some fun. And Avery's going to moderate for me. She's going to make sure that I stay on task and on time. But
He might have to translate for you too with that northern accent that we got.
mind your business. That's why I get down here a little bit early so I can adapt.
Yeah.
He's used to us, and we're used to him.
Yeah. When we say park the car, people don't know.
Yeah, I
what
don't.
The car.
I leave all that in Boston at home. I got my R's down here just fine.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But Paul, any parting notes? Anything you got?
Do you have a shout out for us today?
I do. What I wanted to do is, I think I talked about this on one of our previous podcasts, and if I didn't, then I'll just say it again. When Paul and I were down in New Jersey in March, I talked to roughly 300 plus facility directors in public school districts about Leadership 101, and one of the things that I challenged every facility director in the audience was to have a wall of fame in their school, and that it was important for them to be able to showcase not an email, not on a Facebook post, but a hard copy wall that you frame emails, letters, good acts. It should be a wall of fame that every custodian and maintenance professional walks by every day, that sees all the great and awesome work that they do. So when I got back shortly thereafter, no surprise who it is, because I've known this amazing human for many, many years. And he comes to my class every year. As a matter of fact, for those that don't know, when I speak, typically I'll have a rock that's made out of a skull. It's a lithium stone, or I'll have something because I have a little bit of anxiety and I couldn't find the rock. I get anxious talking to people. Can you believe that?
No.
I know, it's crazy. But I fidget and I do things. And so I rub the rock. I didn't have the rock. I didn't have anything for that matter. So the only thing I could find was a rubber band. And so this guy, Todd Amiot, from Raritan Regional School District, he pointed me out on the rubber band, and then he went back to the school and he had a decal made, huge decal made. This is Wall of Fame in his office, and he's putting it together. And I've challenged people for many years to do that, and he's the first person to do it. So Raritan Regional School District, Todd Amiot, I can't wait to see all of the awesome that your team is doing, and hats off to you for taking on the challenge and getting the first step of getting the Wall of Fame put together. So good stuff there, and thank you for sharing.
All right.
See, I got you covered, Paul. I'm ready for you. I'm not missing it again.
Sure, you always got that shout out, man.
I got a shout out every time. I will not run out of shout outs.
So many good people doing good things. We want to make sure that they're noticed.
We've got 26,000 plus public school districts, don't include charter schools. We've got hundreds of thousands of people that go to work every day. Amazingly, many like Nona, who we talked to a couple weeks ago, that was taking 3 buses each way to get to work. there's no lack of sharing the awesome, and we're gonna keep doing it, and we're gonna get my goal in this whole thing. I think our goal, Paul, we're gonna talk further on it, is we've talked about it with windshield time, is we need to get rid of this unsung hero. We need to make them sung heroes.
Right.
We need people to know that it's okay to talk about the great work that maintenance and operations do, and that we talk about it and we share it with them, because they don't cheerlead for themselves.
No, so much of it's done behind the scenes. It's done at night. It's done after school. It's done, in the back.
Think about that. If 99% of your work was done what nobody could see, how do they know what you did?
Right.
So, and they don't know to share that. So many of them just want to do their job and do it well. So we're going to keep shouting that out. Well, all right. My sailboat just arrived, Paul. So I'm going to make my way across the Gulf to see you.
All right, yeah, Avery. Come on down. The weather's fine down
Avery,
here.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. We were in the hotel room. The air conditioner was blowing, but I was still sweating. Avery said, "Why don't we sit outside? It's a beautiful view. The water's good." I said, "Sounds good to me." And then we had this technical stuff. So
yeah, but he doesn't understand that you sweat under a 60-watt light bulb. That's all it takes.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I got to lose some weight, I think. But no, this is great, Paul. Thanks for making some time while you're in Florida, and Avery, thanks for making some time in the event. Me. Always a pleasure, my friend. Now we got to find another first of something to do and have some fun here. So that'll do it for this episode, Paul. We'll get to work on next week's episode after this, and keep the hats coming. We've got a couple more episodes till we hit episode 20. Still working on this hat plan that you came up with. We probably should have thought that one out a little bit better. Might be Burger King crowns that we're giving out. But
you can do it. I know you can do it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But that'll do it for another episode here. We're going to keep the content coming and give insight and understanding into the world of maintenance and operations, and just K-12 in general, because understanding the work that Avery does and the importance of the work that M&O professionals do with the business officials. It's important and to understand, and there's a lot of new folks coming in. So think it's going to be some good stuff coming up. But if you have some suggestions, ideas, complaints, thoughts, considerations, you know who to email. That's Paul. That's why I got him an email address. Paul at BeAwesome. PAUL at BeAwesome.com. And we love the ratings and reviews. As a matter of fact, Matt Oliver, if you can email Paul or me, Josh at BeAwesome, with a shirt size and an address, we'll get something in the mail for you, because we do appreciate. Got your rating and review. We got the notice here this morning, so thanks a lot. And until next week, if you can be anything,